Hi guys, today I'm going to discuss about React and Redux. So I will create a simple React Redux application from the scratch. I will also install React. I will also create a React application along with Redux setup. Okay, and I will also use React Redux, Redux Thunk, and some of the necessary components like Axios. It will be a very easy setup, and I will explain in an easy way, so that normally Redux is a complex thing to understand when it combined with React. So but I will try to explain as much as possible simple, so that you can easily set up React Redux in your application and you can start working on that. So normally React Redux we can use for PWA kind of application, progressive web apps. So PWA is nothing but progressive web apps. So yeah, let us start. uh, Let me open up a Node.js command prompt. Okay, this is the Node.js command prompt. I have already installed Node.js. So I hope Node.js is very easy to install. If you want to install Node.js quickly, you can go to nodejs.org website, and from here you can download whichever binary you are looking for. So if it is a Windows based application, so you can go for Windows based installation. If it is Mac or Linux, you can go for respective installation. Okay, so fine. So I have already installed Node.js in my machine, so I no need to install again. So I'm just skipping that step. And now we need to do setup for React. The React setup also I have done. I'm not going much details about React setup. So I will directly start with creating a basic React application. So uh, let me start my React application. So creation, I'm navigating to the folder, and I want to create here. So I have already done a setup, folder setup. So now I will just have to create a React application. So the React application, to create a React application, so this is the command. You can give any name. I'm just going to give React Redux sample or something. Okay, it will take a little while. So until this created, I will pause my video. Once it is created, I'll start. Guys, it got created. So you can see the folder got created here, React Redux sample. So this is the application we are going to work. So here we are going to set up React and Redux. Okay, so let me open my command prompt. Okay, so what is the application name? I have given React Redux, so it has come. So now I'll just open my Visual Studio Code. Yeah, my Visual Studio Code is opened. Okay, so let me open the application. So this is the application I'm going to work. So I have opened this. So let me clean up whatever default it has created. So I'm just cleaning up all the things which have been created from React creation. So I'm deleting all these things, so because I don't need all these things. I'm going to create everything from scratch. So I have deleted everything, I have cleaned up. Okay, this is a brand new solution from the scratch. So I'm going to create a file index.jsx. So when it comes to React, we can have any kind of two kinds of extensions. It can be either JS or JSX. So I'm using a JSX extension. So I have taken a JSX file. Okay, so index file I have created it. Now I need to do setup related to React Redux, Redux Thunk, Angios. So Angios is nothing but to make API calls. You need to have that Angios. So Angios is a component which is required to make network calls by using network calls within React application. So I'm going to install all these necessary modules which are required for React Red application to up and running. Okay, so let me go back to my command prompt. So here I will install some of the components like npm install React Redux, Redux and Angios and what else? So I think React Redux, Redux Angios. That's all I need for now. If I miss anything, I will install later. So okay, React Redux, Redux Angios all have been added. So quickly we'll go and verify. When you open a package.json file, you can see all the dependencies. So I have added it as a dev dependencies. So Angios, React Redux, Redux, so all these dependencies I have added it. Now we'll start implementing Redux application. So this is my index.jx file. So first let me test whether my React application is up and running. To do that, I will create import React from React. And I will also have to import some of the necessary component React DOM, which resides in React-DOM. Let me create React DOM dot render. I'm using a render method. So this is the basic method to render our React application. So inside this I need to pass certain values. So for now, to test, I will declare a div, and inside that I will write test app, and after that I have to configure where this div has to be rendered. So React is a single page application, so it has to be rendered on a div, on a particular div element. So so that div we can find out in the public folder. If you go to public folder, you have something called index.html. When you click on index.html, you can see a div. So this is the div, and it is having ID of root. So whatever I run, all everything will be rendered on this div element, root element. So that I need to pass, that details I need to pass. To pass that, I can use document by id root. Okay, that's all I have done. So let us see whether this runs or not. Let me start npm run start. My development server started, application is running. If it is successful, if my setups are all working good, you will see the output as test app. So you are seeing the output as test app. That means my setup is working fine. So now I'll start the next step. The next step, I need to configure React Redux setup. I need to do that. To do that, I need to create I will create some of the folders. These are the structure we follow in React Redux application. The structure is, first I will create a folder called reducers. Okay, and also I will create a folder called actions. Okay, and I will also create a folder called API. Okay, and I will also create a folder called components. Okay, so when you take a React Redux application, the major elements are reducers, actions, components. So actions, I will explain what is action, what are reducers, and how both of them will interact, and how we connect reducer and actions in component. Okay, I will explain all those things uh, step by step when I design component actions and reducers. Okay, so first let me start with actions. Actions are before actions I will configure API. Okay, so to configure the API, I'll click new file and I'm giving the name index.jsx. So there is a prominence if I give the file name with index. So if I give index.js, automatically React identifies that file. So if I don't have to specify that explicitly, that file name when I'm importing it. So that is the advantage of having index file. So if you specify up to folder name, automatically React identifies index file and it will import the necessary components, necessary code present in that index file. Okay, so that is the reason throughout this sample I'm going to use index.jsx, because I no need to import explicitly this file name. So that is the advantage of having index.jsx file. Okay, so in this index.jsx file I will import, I'll just name it as Angios. Okay, from Angios. Okay, now I will configure the Angios. So you will see what is the advantage of having this. So I will just mention it as export default Angios dot create, and here I need to specify what is the base URL. Okay, so the sample application what I'm going to do or going to show is a simple web application which pulls data from an API and displays on the screen through React and Redux. Okay, so to to demonstrate or to show this particular demo, I'm going to use a sample API hosted on the internet. So I'm going to take something called JSON placeholder. So JSON placeholder is a API which hosted on the internet. Okay, so you can take JSON plus, here you can ready-madely you can find out all the APIs available. So I'm going to take an API called post. So this I'm going to utilize for my demo application, sample application. So I'm going to take this JSON placeholder and I'm going to configure it as base URL. This is done. I have configured the base. Now the next step, I'm going to configure the action. So as I mentioned earlier, I'm going to create a file called index.jsx. Okay, here first I will import my API. Okay, to mention that API, I'll just name it as API from. Okay, I'm here the actions, so it is under APIs. Okay, so I have not specified index.jsx file since it is a default location to identify the React. So I no need to explicitly specify that file name after the folder, so automatically it will be picked up by the runtime. Okay, that's all I have done here. After that, I'm going to create method export constant. I will name this function action method as get. So get post action. I named it as get post action. Okay, and I'm going to specify this a little bit tricky, just specifying async dispatch. Okay, after that I'm going to specify this method. Okay, so I will explain what is this dispatch and how this will be invoked and how it will be called up by the React Redux runtime. Okay, so that you will understand when I configure my index.js file, nothing but my root file. Okay, here I have to make a REST call. So to do that, I'm using response, and since it is an async method, I need to use await statement, and API I'm using through via Axios. I'm making call to my API. So this is a get method because I'm going to use this particular method, and this is a get method, and it is having around 100 records of data. So I have already configured the base URL. Now I have to specify only the method name. So the method name will be post. Okay, I have specified it here. After that, I need to return to the runtime as a dispatch method. Okay, I'll just write it, but I will come back again. So dispatch here, and after that I need to specify what is the type of this action. So I will specify type of action is get post. Okay, so here I'm hard coding it here, but instead of that, you can create a separate folder called constants, and there you can specify all the constants and you can utilize it, so that you no need to, because the same we will use it in several other places. So instead of hard coding, it is better way to maintain in a constant file, so you'll have better maintainability. And tomorrow if you have to change the name of this type, you can easily go and change in one place and it will be affected in all other places, so you don't need to change code. Okay, so for now, from a simple sample, I have I have hard coded, I have mentioned here itself. And after that I need to specify a payload. I'm just giving payload. You can consider this as a response. So I'm just giving the name as payload, and I'm going to specify response dot data. So this is the response I receive from my post method. Once I receive that response, I'm giving to a dispatch method. So the dispatch method will be invoked by my thunk. Thunk is my middleware, and which will invoke this particular method, and it will retrieve the data from the API and it will hand over it to the component. So, okay, if I don't specify this middleware, I cannot make a call. So you can try it out without specifying the middleware in React application, Redux application, because in React Redux applications you cannot make API calls without middleware. If you haven't specified middleware, you will get error. That also I will show it to you once I uh, demonstrate this particular thing. Okay, so I have specified this method, so my action method is ready. Now I will go to my reducer. Okay, so in the reducer I'm going to specify the reducer name as index.jsx. Okay, in the index.jsx file I'm going to write a reducer. So reducer gets the response from the action via state state object, and it will be called in the it will be called in my component. Okay, so import, I need to use a something called combined reducers. Okay, so let me see combined reducer. So I'll just try writing redux and I will see combined reducer, so you can find out. Okay, so you can no need to memorize, but you can just memorize the component which we are going to use. So the component which we am going to use here is combined reducers. So you can see this is a case sensitive, so you should be very careful. And you can also see whatever reducer I'm using is whatever name I specified here, import statement, are correct or not. You can validate by placing your cursor over here. So if I place my cursor over here, it is showing the IntelliSense. So VS Code is showing IntelliSense about what this function all about. So easily you can identify whether you have given a correct one or not. If you have not given correct one, you will not see this IntelliSense. For example, if I change this to some other name, we don't see it is not giving an IntelliSense. You can see it is giving declare but its value wrong. So that is one way to identify. Okay, and another thing, people get confused when to use this curly braces and when you have to specify normally. So when you that is very simple. Suppose if you declare anything as a default, so for example in my actions APIs I have declared this particular function as default. Okay, so that is the reason when I import in my action I have not specified curly braces. So if it is a default, by default that method will be imported. But if you have several methods to import, in that case you need to specify one by one. So for example, if you see it here, I have specified my get post action method explicitly export. That means I want to export several other methods. So I don't want to export only one method here. So that is the reason I have not specified a default statement here. Default keyword I have not used it. So similarly, if you observe it in reducer, so in this redux class there are several other elements have been defined. So they have defined as export constant. So that is the reason That is the reason you have to see, you can see export function. This is specified as an export function. So several other functions also exported here. So if you want to export a particular function, and if it is not a default one, then you need to specify with curly braces. Okay, so I have exported this combined reducer. So I will tell you why this is required. So next we need to use a function. So that function I will specify it as get post reducer, and the function is containing two parameters, the state and actions. So the action whatever I have declared in the previous step, that actions output will come here. Okay, so these two parameters I have uh, declared. So the state object will be passed via uh, my Redux component. So my React Redux will take care of passing the state. So state in React application, state will be maintained by React, but if you want to maintain throughout the application, if you have to maintain the state, it is very difficult. So to centralize the state maintenance, we can do through Redux. That is the basic purpose of having React Redux. So the state management can be done easily, and you can maintain across the application without any problem by using Redux. So it simplifies maintaining state of a particular application. So that is the reason I have declared a state object. This state object will be passed via my React application through my React through my Redux component. Okay, so this I have declared it, but I need to declare here initial value of the state. To define the initial state of the value, I'm going to declare here a variable. Let I mention it as initial value. Okay, in this initial value I will have something called a variable called post. Okay, and this is empty array. I have declared this empty array, and this empty array initial value I have placed it as the initial value of this state. So initially, if I don't have any value in this state, this empty array will be returned through my reducer. So when the state is not initialized, you will get initial value. Okay, so this is actually not giving IntelliSense because I have done mistake. So what is that mistake? Since it is a function, I need to define the lambda expression. So I have defined it. So once I have defined, this issue has got resolved. So let me go through. State I have declared. So if my state is having a value, then I need to return that state. So every time I need to update my state. So I need to update the state based on the changes actions I perform. So I have declared if I have declared if statement. So and actions, the actions dot type equal to the type whatever I have specified in my actions, that type I need to write. If it is of this type, then I want to append that value to the state. So what is the type name I have defined for this particular thing? I had defined it as get post. So that I need to specify it here. So if it is of type, if this particular reducer or if particular this action method is called, my state, my action type will come as get post, and if that comes, my state will get updated with that value. Okay, so I'm actually have to append the value through to my state. So to do that, I'm just writing a syntax. So I'm using an object sorry, something has come. Object, okay, object assign method I'm using it here. Assign, the first will be empty braces, then I need to specify my the state, and then after that I need to append my response. To append the response, I need to append to post object. What is the response I'm going to receive? Actions dot payload, which I have specified in my action method. If you see my action method, I have specified it as payload. So that particular payload, I need to mention it here. So I have mentioned it. Okay, so my reducer is ready. I have created a simple reducer, and the reducer is taking an initial value, and it is also appending. If I receive a proper response from my action method, that response will be appended to my state, and my state will get updated. So the reducer is ready. So after that, I need to specify or pass this reducer to my Redux component. To do that, I need to use a simple syntax: export default. I'm again declaring it as a default, and I'm using, to do that, I'm using combined reducers. This does the job of maintaining the reducers. So combined reducers, I have used it, and I will specify the reducer what I'm going to combine. So I'm just going to specify it as get post reducers. Okay, so I have specified my reducer. So my reducer class is component. My reducer module is ready. I have created a reducer. I have created a simple action method, and that action method response I have combined with reducer. Okay, so now I'm ready for conferring my outer index component, index module. So to do that, here I need to do couple of steps. The first step is I need to have a provider. Which provider from from React Redux. So this comes from React Redux. See, as I followed the same step, if it is from a correct component, correct module, if I'm using it, I can easily find out here. See, it is showing the IntelliSense. That means I have imported the correct one. I need to have a provider object, and also I need to have, to maintain the state, I need to have certain components which are from Redux. Okay, so those are create, store, and apply middleware. These two are components I want to make my, see, these are all correct, so I can see, I can find out the IntelliSense. So these are I've imported from Redux. And finally I need to use a middleware. That middleware I'm using thunk. I'm using a thunk from Redux thunk. This I'm using it as a middleware. If I don't have a middleware, I cannot make call to, I cannot make a call to, okay, so I cannot make an API call. So that is the reason I need to import my thunk component from Redux thunk. So I have imported all the necessary things. Finally I need to import my reducer. So import the reducer, I need to import from reducer. So I'll just name it as reducer. Okay, from this is from, just have to pass reducers. That's all. I just have to pass this reducer. So I will give a, I have named it as reducer, and I have imported from reducers folder. Okay, so once this is done, I need to specify my store component. To configure the store, I will just declare it as let store. I need to use something called create store. This is the method I need to use, and here I need to specify my reducer, and I need to specify my middleware, apply middleware, and in this middleware I need to use the middleware component as thunk. So via thunk this will be called. So now this thunk, Redux thunk, will provide dispatch method. So if you see it here, dispatch, I have already used it. So this dispatch will be configured via this particular component Redux thunk. So through this middleware I have configured a middleware called thunk. Thunk will provide my dispatch method, and dispatch method will actually talk to my API, fetch the data, and giving to reducer. So that is the job of middleware. Without middleware I cannot make a call to APIs. So API call will not happen. It will throw error message. The error message will be mentioned it as you have to configure a middleware to make API calls. So in Redux, if you want to use API, you have to have a middleware that can be thunk. So I have used the thunk and I have configured it. Okay, after that I need to configure this provider step. To configure the provider step, I'll just have to specify the provider. Okay, so I have specified it here. In the provider I have something called store. In the store I need to specify the store. Okay, so this store actually maintains the state of my complete React Redux application. So that I have mentioned it in the provider store, and I have passed the store object, and provider I have declared it. So this configuration is completed. Now I need to configure a root component. So where I'm going to actually use my UI, I will render and all those things I need to do through component. Still that component I have not designed it. To do that I will go to my components folder and I will create a new file, and this time I'll mention it as app.js jsx, and in this component I have to declare my React. So React from React. Okay, and here I also have to import my action method. So to import the action method I just give it as get post action, get post action from actions. I mentioned it here, and that's all. After that I will start designing my class app extends react dot component. Okay, I have created this. I also have to have a very important component which connects my index, nothing but my action and reducer and with the state. So I need to have an important component that is called as connect. So let me try. I'll use connect from, it is from React Redux. See, you can see the connect I have imported from the correct component React Redux. So this is the component actually combines my action and reducer with my component. So connect is very important thing that I have to specify, I have to import. So that I have taken from React Redux and I placed it. So now it is showing I have imported connect from the React Redux. So that's all. Now I need to have a render method. So this particular render method will render my component. So to do that I need to actually specify here my return div element, and here I will specify something test app, something I have mentioned it here. Okay, now let me go and configure my connect. So to connect the object I need to use something called one method map state. I'll define that method as map state to props. I will explain what is this state. Okay, return post. I'll just specify it as data, and I will state dot I need to specify here the reducer name. So what is the name? I have specified it here, get post reducer. So this is the uh, method I will get response. So I have just specified here reducer. That means in my map state props method I'm getting response from post reducer, and the post reducer will get the data via action method. That action method I have still not combined. That action method and reducer I will combine it here. So that I will do using my connect statement, export default, okay, connect. And now I need to specify the reducer method, that is map state with props. And now I need to, after that I need to specify action method, that is get post action. I have specified it. After that I need to specify my component name. Okay, so I have exported. Now this I need to specify it here in my index.js file. So I have to import now component, import com app from components slash app. I have imported. Now this app I will declare it here. Okay, that's all I did here. So let us see whether all working fine, all my configurations are good. If it is good, all application will run. Okay, looks like I have not imported okay, so I think the application is running. Let us see. Okay, so yeah, it is showing the same error message. I have not downloaded Redux Thunk. That's why it is giving me error message. So I don't find it is not able to find this Redux Thunk. So let me go back here and let me stop. I will just import, download that particular module. So npm I will install that. Okay, and Redux. Let us wait for a minute. Based on your internet speed, the module will be downloaded. So it is done. So if you go back here and see, once again let me start my server, npm run start. Hopefully this time it should work. See, it is working. That is the only mistake I did. So you can see my configurations are all good. So I can see the output as test app. But now, but my end goal is I want to fetch data from a particular API. I have showed you that sample API from JSON placeholder, and I want to display those values here, but still I have not done that. So I will do that step. So let me go back to my components app.jsx. So here I need to actually make a call to my action method, and that action method should give me that. So let me, to do that, component dot did mount, I'm using it, and this method I will make a call this dot props dot get post action. This is the method I'm calling it. Okay, that means I'm action method, I'm making a call. So here, if this dot props dot data dot, so I have declared in my reducer my state object as post. Okay, data dot post. So let me go back to here, data dot post dot length length equal to 0, then I will return div. Okay, so this is the props object, this dot props dot data dot post dot length. I have used it. That is nothing but I can access the particular state value through my props object. So that is the reason I've used this dot props, and data is the name of my reducer response, and inside that state data I have something called post. I have used post, I have mentioned it. Okay, and length, if it is 0, I'm giving empty. I mean, first time when I make a page load, I will not have any value. That is the reason I have specified it here. So let us see whether my whatever I have written is correct or not. So that we'll just go back to, I just put a debugger and to debug and see. So let me open up inspect, and my build is successful. I don't see any build errors. Okay, so my debugger is hit. So now props, I'm able to get the data. Inside the data I have something called post object, and the post object, if you see the post, it is giving length of 0. So since it is length of 0, okay, so it will not render anything. So now again it has come. So now this time my component data method has component did mount has hit, and that is the reason you can see the post dot length, if you observe it, it is giving me 100. That means I'm able to fetch all the 100 record from the API. Okay, so that's all. I got the data. Now I just have to display it. To do that simple step I will use. So let me take this up and take that post that data dot, I will use a map function. Map, I'm using it, state variable x I have declared, and here I will just specify a return statement. Inside the return I will use a main div. Okay, inside this div I will declare another child div. Okay, inside this div I will have one paragraph statement. Inside this I will have one b, and inside this I will just mention it as title. Okay, and after that title colon, then I will specify the value what I'm going to receive. That I think I have to see what is the JSON placeholder contains the properties. So let me go back here and post. So in the post I can see something called title and body. So these two things I will display, title and body. So let me go back here and x dot title. Okay, done. The next step will be body. To do that I will use the same thing, the above step only I will take. I'll just place it here, and instead of title I will mention it as body, and here I will specify it is extra body. Okay, that's all I have done. So hopefully this should give the output whatever we expected. Yeah, it is coming up. You can see the output. It is fetch all the object from the API and it is mentioning it here. But let me just see, is everything fine? So if everything is working fine or not, you can see it in the console. uh, yeah, it is fine, but I can see an error message. Each child in a list should have a unique key. Yeah, so there is another thing we need to configure, because everything should have a unique key. So if we don't have that, you will get this error. To correct that error message, I will use a key field. Okay, and here I will specify x, what is the property? I think unique id is the property, so I can use an id property. So I have specified id property. Okay, let me save and run. Hopefully this error message should go off. Yeah, now the error message has gone and you don't see any error here, and it is working as expected, and you are seeing the data from an API and displaying it via React and Redux. This is the simple configuration of React and Redux. Okay, hope you enjoyed the video and thanks for watching. If you have any questions, please post in the comments. Thanks.